I am going to call the meeting of the Essex Junction City Council to order for Wednesday, October 22nd. Are there any agenda additions or changes?
None from me.
Nothing from me. We're good.
Nothing
Okay.
from counselors?
Again, I still can't see the room, so I'm going to rely on you guys to be my eyes for the second. So we're going to go to public to be heard. Is there anyone in the room that would like to?
He raised his hand, so
Okay.
we'll
All
have
right.
we'll have another one as well. So
Okay. Steve?
Hey, thank you. Question on, I saw the tree farm was on the, for later on for the contract. And one thing I noticed in the packet that caught my eye was that there was some clarity and capital projects were a responsibility of the two municipalities. I read through the documents. I read it twice. I didn't notice where that was. But my question to the council is, normally capital projects are handled by the capital committee. I know recreation stuff, might be a little bit to the side, but where does one suggest or bring forward capital ideas for the tree farm? I know there's been trail erosion on some of the existing trails that's been kind of going on. And in the past, when Harlan worked for Essex Junction, we had talked about, not too difficult a solution, but everything's been put off and delayed because of all the uncertainty of responsibility and all that. And I see this as a 4-year extension, and it'd be great to just bring forward a couple of the ideas and, however those things get prioritized and decided. And, again, I didn't know if it would go to like the capital committee or recreation or where. So that's my question. And obviously you got to sign the whole thing first, but I'm thinking ahead.
yeah.
Thanks.
Amber, I can respond to some of that if you want me to, or I can wait and we can follow up with Steve afterward.
If you have an answer and you want to respond, that's fine, Regina.
So you are not missing anything. There is no capital plan in there. The plan is to create the capital plan. We specifically put it in the agreement to ensure that if the capital plan is established and we then have some cost estimates, we have a mechanism to start collecting some of those user fees through the tree farm management group management fees of the property. Who you would bring those capital projects to is a great question. We haven't even sort of started to think about putting that together yet.
Okay.
So if you're wanting to get them off your chest, send me an email.
Okay. Perfect. And again, they're not massive things or anything, but,
Yeah.
but a capital project nonetheless.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Steve. All right.
Mr. Willie Padnos here as well.
Okay.
Steve, number 2.
Yes.
Hey, I wanted to make a couple comments actually on, first off on Meet Me on Main. My wife and I were able to attend 2 of those. I don't know how much the city council had to do with it, but, to the extent you did, good job. They were well done, really enjoyable, and I particularly liked the fact that we had some of the municipal planning things, the governance committee and planning commission, and questions about the surveys and questions about building heights. I mean, just street plans and stuff like that. It worked really well. So good job, and let's do more next summer, but not late in the fall. Kind of cold during the movies, so I don't know. And the other piece is on a less nice topic, but on the agenda you have a cannabis license renewal coming up. I think the council and and acting as CCB has been more than fair to TrichomeVT at 8 Taft Street in renewing the license while our court case was in process. I think now that we have a decision from the Supreme Court, I really hope that you follow Chris Ewan's advice and don't renew the cultivation license. He's got a manufacturing license too, which again shows how fair things have been. That this hasn't been any sort of persecution, as it's been represented by at least one person. But I think it's time for some fairness for the neighbors as well. So thanks. That's all on that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Anybody else in the room, Marcus?
No, not at this time.
Anybody online, if you can raise your hand? I see Craig Dwyer was the first hand I saw.
Can you hear me?
You're good.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I just want to state what my neighbor just echoed about how living next to a cannabis grow operation has just impacted my family financially, having to pay for renting pavilions and Airbnb for my children. Social emotionally, all they do is talk about this smell and inside and outside the house, and it's an inconvenience. I can't park my car in the driveway. And all I want is the same standard of quality of life Jason Struthers and his sister had growing up on Taft Street. They didn't have their home smell, didn't have their backyard smell, and they didn't have marijuana grow along the fence line, less than 2 feet. I just want the same standard for my children, nothing more, nothing less. Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. Sharon?
Hi there, this is Sharon Willie Padnos. I also am second, or in this case, thirding the recommendation to not approve the license for Jason Struthers at 8 Taft Street with his cannabis growing, cultivating, business, I guess you'd call it. The neighbors have really been through a lot for many years now. And while it's not necessarily the city's fault for not knowing how to remedy this, because the state kind of left you in a lurch, as it did all the cities in Vermont, when it passed a law that didn't really, I think, give cities time to figure out what that meant for them specifically until after the fact, which means then you have situations that push the limit. In this case, I think it was this one. And that's how the rules end up getting made. So, but I do think that this has gone on a long time. A lot of people have had a lot of suffering on this street, regardless of whatever has been said about, the cute raising of ducks along with the cannabis doesn't smell. I think the people who live here ought to know what's going on more than anything. And so I would absolutely recommend that you guys not approve the license, again, per Supreme Court order from the case that we needed to take to make this happen. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon. Is there anybody else online? All right, I'm not seeing any hands. I will move on to item 5A, which is a resolution of appreciation for Troy Wilber. Tim?
Whereas Troy Wilber served the City of Essex Junction Public Works Department for 18 years with dedication and hard work. Whereas Troy played a key role in keeping our city running smoothly, whether it was maintaining roads, water lines, or lending a hand wherever needed. Whereas Troy contributed significantly to the safety, functionality, and improvement of our community's infrastructure. Whereas Troy was known for his sense of humor and speaking his mind and being a dependable teammate. Whereas Troy passed away unexpectedly, October 7th, 2025, leaving behind a legacy of service and deep sense of loss among those who knew him. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council, on behalf of the staff and citizens of the City of Essex Junction, formally recognize and honor the life, service, and contributions of Troy Wilber. Be it further resolved that this resolution of appreciation be entered into the official record and that a copy be presented to Jennifer Combs Wilber and Michaela Combs Wilber as a token of our gratitude and sympathy.
Thank you, Tim. All right, next we have a resolution in appreciation of John Rowell. And I'm going to ask Marcus to read that one.
John Rowell has honorably served as a volunteer firefighter with the Essex Junction Fire Department for 43 years, always showing up with courage, dedication, and a big heart for helping others. Whereas throughout his tenure, John Rowell rose up through the ranks to assistant chief and has served in this position for 21 years. Whereas John has responded to countless emergencies, provided critical support during times of crisis, and exemplified the highest standards of professionalism and compassion. Whereas John has been a mentor and role model to fellow firefighters, generously sharing knowledge, experience, and leadership to strengthen the department and inspire others. Whereas beyond answering emergency calls, John has been a familiar and friendly face at community events, whether it was teaching kids about fire safety, appearing in the Memorial Day Parade, participating in fundraisers, supporting Essex Chips, coaching the Essex Junction Little League, teaching religious education, or lending a hand wherever it was needed. Whereas John also stepped up to the position of health officer in the city where he dealt with challenging public health concerns and disputes. Whereas John's commitment to both fire service and the community has made a lasting impact, and his kindness and leadership will be deeply missed. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council, on behalf of its residents, extends its deepest gratitude and appreciation to John Rowell for his extraordinary service and wishes him a fulfilling and joyful retirement. Adopted this 22nd day of October 2025 by the Essex Junction City Council.
Thank you, Marcus, and thank you, John. Okay, moving to business items, 6A, interview police community advisory board applicant for open position. And I believe is Nancy Bean there. Nancy Bean,
Hello, Miss
come on
Tebow.
down. Hello. So Nancy and I do a lot of work together because Nancy works at the Chittenden Superior. So we know each other pretty well, but I appreciate you coming tonight and stepping up to sit on PCAB, is what we call PCAB. So we have your application. Is there anything that's not in your application that you want to tell us about?
I don't even remember what I put in there now. I think it was mostly that I've been a police dispatcher for 12 years, including here in Essex. I lived in Essex the first 24 years of my life here in the village, got married, moved to Burlington, and now we're back. So I thought this would be a good opportunity. I'm trying to get involved in the community. My mom was a teacher at the high school for 36 years and then worked in the athletic office for another 15. And she just passed away last year, and her last wish was a field hockey scholarship for an Essex student at Essex High School, which I have now got established and ran a camp in June to fund that scholarship. So I'm trying to live up to what she would want for being involved in the community and the schools. And my kids are full grown. They went to BHS, but I have grandchildren. So unfortunately, they don't go to Essex. They go to Starksboro right now, but we might change that. My husband was a cop for 41 years. So it's in our blood. And I just would like to see some more community involvement and understanding of what they do for their job. And I think in today's society, the media says a lot of things that are not necessarily what they see when they're out on the road. And I'd like to improve that communication.
Thanks, Nance. Counselors, do you guys have any questions for Nancy?
You're always first up.
Oh, no, go ahead, Elaine. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much for stepping up. And I'm interested in how you were saying you want to have the community better understand the
Yep.
role of the police.
Yes.
And is there anything in the opposite direction that you're hoping to bring to the police department about our community, or maybe about segments of our community that don't interact with the police as often? Or like, are there aspects of our community that you feel might be better, that the police department might need to pay more attention to?
Definitely. I believe a lot of the minorities, depending on which country they come from, and I saw this being a scout leader for 20 years, that they don't trust the police. In their countries, they believe that the police are not good. So I feel we need to work on that, definitely, because we have a lot of different diversities here and they need to understand that police are not bad and that they're here to help. So that would be, I saw it in Burlington a lot, so I'm assuming it's probably here too. And I think it just takes maybe community events, maybe reaching out to them. I don't know. I mean, there's definitely ways. We just got to figure it out.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Any other questions?
Nope, no others here. Elaine asked the question I was going to ask.
Oh, really?
We're good. We're all good. Yeah.
Great minds. Nance, we're going to go, we do have an executive session scheduled tonight. So we talk about this in executive session and then we come out. And we may or may not make a decision tonight. If we make a decision, it'll be on the record and then someone from staff will reach out to let you know what we're doing. So,
Okay.
thank you.
I would
I'll
see
see
you
you
in
soon.
person. What's going on?
I know, sorry. I'm sure I'll see you soon. Bye. All right, next up, we have the annual Essex Rescue presentation, and we have Colleen online. Thanks for joining us, Colleen.
Thank you for having me.
Would you take it
So
away?
I did put together a pretty short little PowerPoint if you'd like me to share that I think sometimes visuals can be helpful. And this is based on just some recent stuff, like within our organization, questions from the last meeting with the council, and also that have come up in other select board meetings. So I thought it might be just helpful to go over that. Does that work for everybody?
Sure. I think Regina has the sharing capabilities.
Okay.
Can't share, let me know.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Oh, good. It worked. How often does that happen, right?
Yeah.
The question is, let me move it up here on a bigger screen. And there. Okay. Okay, so you can see it okay? I have a weird. Oh, that's weird. That's weird. I have like 2 up right now. Let me see here. It's not like there's a bunch of notes on there, but the other version is much more pleasant. I wonder why it's doing that. That's strange.
Thank you very much, everyone.
We'll
It's been a pleasure.
see you when you come back for doctor's appointments.
So, in a month.
Oh,
Thanks, John.
I'm good.
Thank you.
Well, I don't know why it's showing it on one screen, but then the other one is
We won't pay
anybody.
attention to your notes. It's okay.
Well, there really aren't any notes, so it's all good. Okay, but you can see it, okay?
We can't now. It's gone now.
Oh, okay, of course. Oh, dear Lord.
Technology.
It's supposed to be helpful, but sometimes I feel like I spend more time trying to figure out problems. Okay, let's try this again. Now it doesn't want to do anything. All right, let's try this. All right, I think we're gonna have it this time. I'm feeling good about this.
Loading. You're good.
Oh, it worked. Okay. Woo. Pressure. Okay. We have a lot of that, right? Okay. So, so first, just giving you an idea of where we kind of focused our attention this year, and will be the highlight of things going forward is strengthening our workforce, optimizing our resource allocation, and ensuring that we have financial stability. This question, I don't recall if it came up in this meeting or another one, but people were definitely interested in the mutual aid because we're quite busy and, you know, curiosity. So in 2024, 30% of our calls in the city were taken by mutual aid. 70% of those were handled by us. And then you have the city for 2025. Now, remember that we are, you know, only into the third quarter here. So moving into the fourth, we'll see where things go by the end of the year. But we definitely saw a spike in call volume this last quarter, which I'll explain it in a couple minutes, but skews some of our efforts of taking additional calls. But I don't have a reasoning for why we have seen the spike in call volume most recently. But just to note that. And if you have any questions, go ahead and just halt me. So our call volume has been climbing. The dotted line here simulates like where call volume was good when we had mostly volunteers. That's kind of where the sweet spot was. There were enough calls to keep people engaged, but not so many that it really kind of tipped us. And the yellow lines here simulate exactly where the greatest climb was. So that was that 30% increase in call volume that we saw post-COVID. That's where that sits. So I'm thinking we're probably going to end up around 3,500 calls the end of 2025. So our call volume is done on a calendar year, but our budget and everything is done fiscal year, which confuses me all the time. But so they don't necessarily go hand in hand, but just so we'll know where we end up in 25 at the end of December. If anybody wants to gamble where we might end up. So along with the our call volume in general, if we're not available to take the call, obviously it goes to mutual aid. We've seen an increase in simultaneous calls. So sometimes the third, fourth, and even the fifth call, which is kind of terrifying, but we have definitely seen an uptick in simultaneous calls or calls happening at the same time. But we have continued to see an increased trend in the calls happening simultaneously, but also any call that goes to another ambulance service when we're currently on another call. So one of my big projects was identifying our peak call times. So when are we the busiest? And the brick colored, I'm not sure what color they show up for you, but on my screen, they're like a brick color, is the mutual aid calls that occur during peak time. And then the other ones are mutual aid calls total. So we've identified that most of our calls are happening between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. And that is when most of the mutual aid ambulances are coming in. There are obviously sometimes some outliers, but for the most part, that's pretty consistently where our calls are coming in. So this is not the Essex Junction. This is mutual aid across the entire service area. 2024, you can see there's an increase here. I don't know necessarily that it's an increase. The mutual aid is because we have necessarily more ambulances coming in. It's likely because our call volume is just up in general, and that's where this gets a little bit kind of hanky is our call volume continues to increase, and therefore our ambulances now, even both of them, become busier because they move up on being available in the district when other ambulances are busy. So when that happens, it pulls our ambulance out, which then makes us not available for our own calls. So as everything is increasing, you're going to see the mutual aid number get bigger. And again, so comparing each town, how often mutual aid is coming into their area. Again, call volume varies pretty significantly between Essex Town, Essex Junction together versus Jericho, Underhill, and Westford. Their call volume is just not as high. Essex Town and the city are pretty similar in their call volume. So back in 2022, 23, when I was trying to get a handle on not only the call volume and staffing and our finances, but we really wanted to understand if putting an additional ambulance on the road was actually going to make a difference. So in 2022, we hired some per diems and some part-timers, and we did a few month trial of seeing if doing this would actually make a difference in our call volume. And as you can see, in 2022, the increase, we did actually take more of those calls. We found that we actually were able to bring in some extra revenue from it and put our efforts towards training people up and looking at how to get another resource on the road for that time. So since then, we have been working on training people and trying to utilize our part-time and full-time people. The challenge was the per diem and part-time staff have other jobs in other places, and they just weren't available to us, often calling out because of other commitments. It just wasn't a reliable source of help. So I approached our board back in, it was probably April, and I said, I really think that we need to make kind of a bigger commitment to this. So we made a minimum staffing change. Before our staffing, our minimum was 1 ambulance 24/7. We have, starting July 1st, made the commitment that our new minimum staffing is going to be 1 ambulance 24/7 and an additional ambulance during peak times, which right now is Monday through Friday, that 8 to 8. I'm continuing to watch the data on weekends and weeknights, and I think that will be incremental changes as we go forward. If we have to either adjust our times during the week or adjust our times to include weekends or nights, wherever the volume is pretty consistently picking up. But we have now committed to staffing an ambulance 5 days a week for 12 hours. So with that being said, that meant that we needed to bring on more people. So the board agreed that we were going to hire 3 more full-time staff to ensure more guaranteed coverage of those hours. And by doing so would really get us to this second pie chart here of with our full staff gets us to 79% of all those openings based on a 1 one truck 24/7 and another truck 5 days a week for 12 hours, leaving us that 21% for volunteers, part-time, and per diem staff. So we started, we hired people. We've had some hiring glitches. People start with us and go, whoa, that's more calls than I really want to do, or I'm not sure I want to stay in EMS. I think I prefer fire. So we hired a couple people and they changed their mind shortly after starting with us, which is fine. I'd rather them do that before than we get them all trained up and they leave then. But even in the short time, so we started this July 1st. Obviously, we weren't going on 5 days a week yet, but we were staffing as often as we could. We started hiring people in July, training some people coming to us from other agencies with training. So July to September, we staffed 48 out of the 65 shifts if we were figuring, the 5 days a week during those months. And that resulted in 167 additional calls that we were able to take. So you can see in Q3, there's a pretty good decrease in the number of calls that were turned over to mutual aid. And that's with us not only not staffing them all the way, but we're still in a training, training process with a lot of those people. So we actually were, that's really, really good in my eyes. The slight unfortunate piece here is our call volume was also up 11% during that quarter. So if we were looking at it using Q2's data for total call volume, which you can see Q1 was pretty consistent or close around that, we would have only missed a few calls. When you look at it, and brought us to 93% of our call volume. But looking at it right now, it doesn't seem like it made that much of a difference, but when all actuality it did. So the financial impact, obviously people are probably wondering, well, what's this mean for us? So it was going to be about a $300,000 budget change, and that's mostly for benefits and payroll expenses. Based on some calculations with our treasurer and things like that, we were able to look at what the potential offset would be by running these calls, knowing the changes that we've made, whether it be our billing, whether it be billing for all of the services that we provide, including non-transports, and getting that money, unfortunately, sending people to collections so bills get paid. All of those things combined actually puts us in a position where it's not going to be as much a loss as we were, once would have thought, looking at the numbers a little bit deeper and with some of the other changes that we've made financially. So this is our current year's budget that I sent over. You can see up in the income category, line 2 is our transport revenue. So that's transport revenue fiscal year 25-26, what we are expecting. And then you see the swing truck is that additional truck that's 5 days a week. And if we are averaging 40 calls, give or take a month, that would be the expected revenue or estimated revenue that we would bring in to help offset that $300,000 in additional payroll expenses. Does anybody have questions about this slide?
I think so. Not in the room.
Sorry?
Nothing from the room.
Nothing from the room. Okay. And I just want to take a minute and thank everybody for their continued support. I know that's certainly been a couple years that have been challenging with our finance asks and with all the other expenses and taxes and everything going up for people. It certainly was a very big ask, and we know that. But for the first time in a while, I can say that we are in a really good financial place, and one that I don't have to worry. I'm going to be telling you that we can no longer keep our doors open and answer the call. But we were able to level fund our request for all of our communities this year and not ask for any additional funding. That may change in the future, and hopefully that will remain incrementally and small and only what is needed to make ends meet if that's the case. But we're optimistic that we're staying ahead of this and making changes to not only better meet the call volume, but also financially plan for these types of events. So that is all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thanks, Colleen. Questions in the room?
Go ahead, Elaine.
No, you go ahead.
All right. Colleen, quick question, because I know this question has come up before. And, you know, I guess my concern in seeing these numbers and reading it is I'm not sure when this call volume goes the other way. So if we continue on this particular trend in an upward direction of 30% over another 4 or 5 years, I mean, I see this falling off another, you know, we ended up in another position at some point. So I'm curious what your thoughts and outlook are for the future. You know, are you considering bringing more ambulances with more full-time staff? And along those lines, because this question has come up before, is I know that there's different levels of certification. How are you, what is the staffing of a truck at any given time? Is it 2 paramedics? Is it 1 EMT and 1 paramedic? I can't remember how that mix works.
Yeah, and so I actually remember that specifically. This was a question that was brought up last year. As far as, I'll address the staffing one way, it's fresh on my mind. When I mentioned strengthening our workforce and then, you know, our allocation of resources, that wasn't just the allocation of resources for our ambulance. That was also the allocation of the individuals staffing the truck. And we made an internal change recently that we will now hire EMTs full-time. We look to actually hire these last 3 positions, looking for EMTs who wanted a career as an EMT. The reality is most of the EMTs that we have upped their certification to better themselves and provide a more advanced level of care. That's just the reality of it. But we are certainly doing what we can to entice people to want to retain that level of licensure. We do staff our ambulance. There are many agencies in the area that do not do this the way we do this, but we do staff our ambulance when the schedules work and when we have the people, a BLS provider and an ALS provider. That could be an EMT and a paramedic. That could be an EMT and an AEMT. There are times that we have 2 AEMTs. There are times that we have 2 paramedics. We try, when we have 2 ambulances on, to separate the paramedics, so we have one available in each truck. We're also on a very strong learning pathway right now with a lot of our providers. I would say 90% of our shifts right now have either an EMT student, an AEMT student, or a paramedic student, or one of our own people that are learning to how to lead calls. So they're in a crew chief training, internal position training, where they need to be with that other mentor. So I think we're utilizing people the best we can right now. It is my preference and efficiency to split up providers. But the reality is, if you don't have enough of those EMTs to split up your people, you can't do that. But you know, whenever we can, yes, that is the most financial efficient way to do that. So we're trying. That is in the way we do it. As far as the way EMS is going, that is as much a wild card to you as it is to me. I sat on the committee for the state when they tried doing their EMS study that was funded by the state, which, because it was funded by the state, they were able to take the data that we received, and we provided them and manipulate it to provide only what they wanted to. We are in as much the healthcare business as the hospital and every other entity out there that provides healthcare to people. This is seen not just in our region of area, but it's a US problem. I dare say it's also an international problem. I don't have answers for that, but I can tell you that as long as the population grows and the government and community programs exist that can't support those individuals, we are the ones that are called to support them. So when they can't get into their doctors, they call the ambulance. When they have an illness or an ailment that it takes too much to get a ride to the doctor's office or to get an appointment or urgent care, they don't want to wait anymore, we are who they call. Most of our calls are not necessary. But that is the beast we are up against right now. So until those other systems are straightened out and the resources are available, we will continue to be that. With that said, I think it is very realistic that we will continue to have to put additional ambulances on the road. If the EMS system stays the way it is, which is no longer fitting what it was originally put together to do, I think this is a critical issue. The state is talking about regionalization. I can't tell you what that's going to look like if they do that. We are running a somewhat regionalized model that we cover multiple towns, so you're not all footing the $2 million bill to staff your own ambulances. I don't know what that's going to look like, but the state has continued to hold their position of a regulatory body, which is part of the problem. So we're all out there trying to fund ourselves, make ends meet, staffing, training, all of these things, without a good support system. So I share the same concerns. Been doing this for 23 years with the same organization, and I'm doing the best that I can with what I have in front of me, and trying to think about ensuring that we're meeting the calls, we're fielding good providers that are prepared for the worst case scenarios, some of what we can't even prepare or know what to prepare them for, and that's what we can do right now.
How important I think Essex Rescue and the services you provide are. So thank you for continuing to do that. One last question for me, and just to help me understand the system itself, because especially when we're talking about the mutual aid, you have taken on full-time staff. When we look at the other ambulances that are available to help in mutual aid situations, is Essex Rescue the only one that's got full-time staff, or what are the other departments within our area that's helping to service this area?
Good question. More and more they're being paid. A lot of them are doing what we were doing a couple years ago, and that is you have a couple full-time solid people, and then you hire per diems from other agencies. So our per diems in this industry are people that already work and have the training and certification, that they are you can pretty much take them out of where they are and put them in a seat and fill a hole, where you're not paying benefits and all those other expenses that come along with hiring a full-time employee. We were doing that. The challenge is you are then at the realm of their other line of work, most of those people are already working in EMS or fire or some form of public safety. So when staffing gets tight, for example, when COVID was happening, all of a sudden people get ordered into their other job and you lose your, additional staff. So that's why we decided to hire more people. We tried it the least expensive way to even see if it would work, which it did, and brought me to the only way that we were going to do this regularly and dependably was to hire full-time people where we know exactly what their hours are going to be every week, and that we could make that full-on commitment. Because I have to say, we get a lot of calls from people that say, I am a subscriber And the 2 times that I've had to call you, I've gotten a different ambulance. So then you start running into another problem, right? Who's going to want to subscribe and support you financially that way when they're always getting another service that won't honor your subscription plan? So it pushed us to another place.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Elaine?
Thanks. Colleen, I really want to commend you on the really great management of the Essex Rescue finances. I remember in years past, you're coming and saying, things are pretty rough, folks, and you guys have come a long way. So thank you, and congratulations on being able to stabilize finances. I just want to clarify one question. As I'm reading your materials, and you've been talking about having a second ambulance. Did you folks purchase a new ambulance recently?
No, that's a really good question. So we have 3 ambulances. We can only currently put 2 in our building. The third one won't fit. Town Fire has graciously homed that for us, and we can swap them out when we need. We've always had, well, for most of my tenure with the department, we've always had 3 ambulances. And the reason for that wasn't always because we were always staffing them, but when an ambulance goes down, mechanically, now all of a sudden you're stuck. So we always have kind of had that backup, and we have gotten down to half a functioning ambulance, folks. And it's not pretty. So having 3 ambulances been a lifesaver for sure. One could argue, well, now that you're staffing this other one, shouldn't you? Well, let's take it one step at a time. We have 3 trucks, which we can rotate through, and has been supportive to us not going out of service for mechanical issues.
Okay. And do you have a capital fund that you are setting aside for the next purchase?
Yes, great question. So our ambulances are very outdated. The recommendation is 7 years on an ambulance. We have one that's a 2015, and it's got 150,000 miles on it. So reliability, it's not. We do have a capital budget. When I started, it was in the 700,000s range. We are now $1,700,000 in that account. And we will be purchasing our new ambulance coming out of that to replace the oldest one. That's arriving hopefully mid-November. And yeah, I don't know if you followed any of the government press on the fire truck issue, but we're having the same issue with ambulances, getting them within a reasonable. We were supposed to have one in June. So we had to buy one that was already pre-made. But anyway, so we will re-chassis one. That's about $250,000 versus a brand new one, which is anywhere from $350,000 to $400,000. So for 1 year of its life, it will be brand new. And then the box will be cleaned up and put on a new truck bottom. And that's about $250,000. So we'll do that to the truck once to save us some time and rebuild those funds. But that's how we're doing the ambulance purchasing.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think last year you asked a question about subscriptions. And whether or not somebody could gift a subscription or buy one for somebody else. So just for you, well, not just for you, but it was a fabulous idea. So we actually put together the ability to purchase and gift a subscription. You can purchase a gift card. It can be sent to somebody who then can enroll themselves using the gift card on our website. So it's all something that they're agreeing to. It's not, you signing them up and they have no knowledge of it, which really wouldn't make it legal. But now you can gift a subscription to somebody, which I wanted to make sure I shared that. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool.
So,
Yep.
Colleen, I just wanted to take a second because I have seen the simultaneous 4, 5, and 6 calls and what that means for your response and for other area agencies. And I have seen ambulances from Burlington and South Burlington and Richmond in here as well. So the big ones for us are your 2 primary, St. Michael's, Williston, Richmond, depending upon which end of the town it's in. Do you see or anticipate any changes to any of those mutual aid agreements, or is it like with the fire service, if we ask, they come? Do you see there's too much of an ask from an outside agency that they might need to reevaluate because they're going with per diems, or they're not fully funded, or full-time staff? As you've gone
Yeah,
to?
so Tim, do you mean us going out?
Going
Either
out
or.
or them coming in,
Yeah.
and I know that whole ambulance rotation then screws up who's available for what, and it goes down the line, and it becomes this whole thing, and it takes forever to get back into the right rotation. But I drive around with a mobile radio in my truck, so I hear those simultaneous calls all the time, and I always just kind of shake my head and I go, oh. But there's never a failed answer, right? Like, all of the calls get answered. It's just a matter of who's coming from where. And
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I see Williston quite a bit. I see St. Michael's quite a bit. We work with Richmond quite a bit, and so I'm just as there's more stress on that, and theoretically there's less stress because now you have more trucks on the road. But you can't do anything outside of those calls of the woman that wants, or the man that wants to go to the hospital because they have an upset stomach, and they've called the ambulance because they don't want to wait at the ED, and that's the easiest way for them to get seen. That's not an emergency call, but I didn't know if you anticipate any changes to any of the agreements, or if they stand kind of like.
Yeah, so good questions. A couple years ago, I sat down with Richmond, St. Michael's, and Williston, because Williston being the newest ambulance service, they actually weren't in the matrix to come into Essex Junction, but they were actually closer than some of the others. I have received more than one unhappy email from, service heads, Richmond, St. Michael's, and our call volume there, the request for them to respond has been extremely taxing on the students at St. Mike's, for example. And, Richmond, they took on some additional territory, but they're spending a lot of time here. So we all sat down at the table and we really brought Williston in to be second into Essex Junction. It was originally St. Michael's for all of that area, which didn't make a lot of sense because Williston was so close. So that helped some of the pressure that was on St. Michael's. We also brought Richmond up 117 a little bit further to answer a lot more of the assisted living calls that we're getting up in the town. So pulled them up because, again, St. Michael's, it was taxing them quite a bit. So we reworked some of those lines a little bit, and it helps, but it doesn't help when Richmond Rescue goes out of service because they don't have staff, or when St. Michael's Rescue is out of service because they don't have staff. Those are two frequent problems. We were going to Williston quite a bit because Williston lost a bunch of their firefighters and they couldn't staff their second ambulance. So then we were getting the pressure of their call load as well. I looked at the data. It only looks like 20 additional calls a year that we're now going out to a different area. The larger request is definitely in to Essex. So this should help with some of that, but now you've got an additional ambulance available to help support the entire system. And that's the part that the state needs to start looking at how to do this, because it's the domino effect when one goes out.
I guess on a larger scale, is there any conversation with those care facilities for them to provide non-emergency transport so they're not relying on an ambulance to get them there, which would then, obviously it takes away from your transportation revenue, but at the same time, it takes the pressure off the system. And so are there those conversations?
Yeah, so they are. So our medical director, so in the state, each licensed EMS agency has to have a doctor that oversees their organization. So we have Dr. Molly Furin, who's actually a resident of Essex Junction. And she has gone with me to several of the larger assisted living facilities to engage their staff on education of when to call. The challenge we get into has to do with the type of facility that they are. They're not nursing homes. They are assisted living. So these are glorified apartments where they happen to have licensed healthcare providers, but those healthcare providers don't work under the orders of a physician, which is different than a nursing home where they work under the orders of a physician. So to cover their butts, they rely on us to be the third party person who does the assessments. They're not trained to check somebody and clear their spine after they fall. So they're not going to take on that liability. If the patient decides that they want to go to the hospital, there are certain situations where they could arrange their own transportation. And one of them even they hired a part-time driver. And I said, hey, why don't you work with some of the other facilities and you guys could all fund this resource? That wasn't very popular. But we do have those conversations. And I will say one of the things the biggest things that have changed for us is when you get into public education, we're not doing as many CPR and first aid classes, but one of the big education factors that we have is the most appropriate use of the ambulance and other resources to access the care you need in your community. So, we are saying this isn't appropriate more often, but in the end, if the patient says that they want to go by ambulance, we cannot say no.
I appreciate it, and I just wanted to say that I really enjoy working alongside of your people when I encounter. They're always fantastic. So,
thank you.
Brian, do you have anything?
No, thank you, Colleen.
No other questions in the room? Colleen, I'll just echo what Elaine said as somebody who's been sitting on the council for a number of years and have seen those presentations as well. This is great news, and glad to see the change. So thank you for coming tonight and joining us. Appreciate it, and I hope you can enjoy the rest of your night.
You as well. Thank you all.
You can feel free to stick around, but I'm pretty sure you're probably gonna go do something more fun. So
Thank you.
take care. All right, so 6C is Governance Committee update and presentation. And I believe we have Stephen Marlin in the room.
Yeah, we can scoot
Begin.
this down maybe.
Yeah, put it in the middle.
Oh,
I'm not sure. it'll
How
go
about the other
further,
one?
But you could.
The table.
I get Logan upset.
Yeah, we'll just.
Okay.
I'll just come down here. Get the main seat.
I'm glad I checked the floor before I just
Yeah.
yanked the mic.
So used to being at the police station where you just willy-nilly.
Just let me know if you guys want me to share any of the things that are in the packet itself on the screen as you go.
Yeah, I'll start without it.
Okay.
And then again, if you want to, that's fine as well. Assume you've all taken a peek and such, but we're just here to give an update. And so we've been working for a long time. We kind of first went through the variety of topics to investigate, kind of learned about things ourselves. Then we went out and talked to 9 different communities that were similar in size, population, et cetera, and kind of compiled all those results. Then we talked about the variety of topics. We kind of narrowed in on, we ruled out some, and we've got some that we've got choices on. I'm just giving a quick overview first. And then we're now looking to get community input. And so, there was, Meet Me on Main, there was some information there. We've got a community forum coming up on November 5th.
4th.
4th,
Yeah.
thank you. And then there's,
4th. Yeah.
okay, this says 5th.
Did they say 5th there? Let me double check and make sure. No, you're right, it's 5th.
It does say 5th.
Yeah, you're right,
Yep.
it's 5th, yeah.
All right, and then there's a survey online as well, so there's a lot of stuff on the city website. So that's, and then we'll be kind of compiling all that information together, and we're going to be in the December meeting to the council to kind of pull all that together for your perusal and going over the outcomes we've come up with. So that's kind of a 10,000 foot view of what we did. And then, I don't know if you have any questions about that. Okay.
Not at all.
And there was, we have 10 things. So there was a little Excel file that was in the packet. And I can kind of flip down at a high level the variety of things, and not reading the whole thing point by point. But we tried to go down each of the 10 things on here, and we didn't put pros and cons. We specifically just put like considerations, because what someone might consider a pro, someone else might consider a con, right? So they were just considerations of each of the things. So we looked at, and I know you all gave us some topics to think about, and then we picked up a couple more when we were talking to the different communities. So if we start, that's exactly the right thing, thank you. So with the city manager, we're kind of looking at no change there. We put down kind of how the status quo is and some different things, and then the ruled out section on the right. So you can see there's like little tags which kind of make it easy to read on whether something's like currently what we're doing or a possibility versus the first one which says, no change, ruled out. And that was again through a long process. So if we go down to leader of the city council, currently that's the president elected by the councilors. There's points on that. And then we've also considered a mayor elected by the residents, right? So that's something that we can look into, that we'll get input from the public at the community forum and survey, et cetera. Then number of city councilors, we've got 5 today. 7 was a possibility. We've ruled out 3 or 9. Various points there. Then on the second page there, term lengths. Right now we have 3 years for all. We had one community we worked with that had a mix of 3 and 2 years. That seemed interesting, so we left that as a possibility. What we ruled out was all 1-year terms, all 2-year terms, or all more than 3, for a variety of things noted there. So again, a couple possibilities there. We looked at whether we should have term limits for city councilors and appointed committee members. Right now there aren't any. And then it's a possibility we could have some there. Then we looked at the stipend for the city councilors. Currently it's $2,500. Do we want a possibility is a higher stipend? We've ruled out lower or no stipend, right? So again, we'll talk some more about that. And then on the third page, the stipend for the leader of the city council, whether it's the president or a mayor, however that works, whatever that answer is up ahead. Right now, everybody gets the same amount. An option, a possibility is maybe the leader receives more for some of the extra responsibilities. And then we also looked at stipend increases, like when do these happen? Right now, currently, that happens each year in the budget. You all propose a budget and they can be increased or left alone or what have you. And a possibility is it's just put in the charter. Maybe there's a COLA, certain, however it gets defined. And then it doesn't have to be discussed every year. Then the charter review, we ran into one community where they have a mandatory 15-year charter review. So right now we don't do that. And we kind of, if an issue comes up, we deal with it. And so it's a possibility that you do a top to bottom review every somewhat periodicity. And then the last thing was how people are elected. Right now, everything's at large. And what was ruled out were wards or other ways to elect than at large. And so anyway, so that's a 10,000-foot view without going into all the details of things that we've kind of said, hey, here's where we're getting some public choices still. And other things by talking to other communities and the research we've done seem to like, okay, I don't think we need to spend more time, on that. do you want to add in, Marlon, other thoughts?
Steve, I think you actually covered everything pretty well. So there's not much for me to add right now, but I think we, turn over to questions to the city council. If you have any thoughts, obviously we know that Brian and Lamb done work on here with us, and Marcus, was at the beginning. But we'd love to hear any thoughts that you all have, or concerns or questions of what we've done so far.
I'll open it up to the room. I do have a question, but does anybody in the room have a question?
I'll start and just simply say, because I don't have an opinion on this at this moment, I'm letting your work speak for itself, but the one thing that I want to really congratulate you on in this work is the way you've laid it out, not just for our packet, but as you showed up at Meet Me on Main, you've used the same kind of imagery, the simplicity of the way that you present the information, I think makes this really easy for the community to kind of get into it, understand it, at least start the dialogue. So I just want to say thank you so much for finding a simple way to present this information so that those conversations can happen, because I think that was probably one of the biggest challenges to figure out, so that you can get that feedback from the community and move this thing forward. So thank you.
And kudos to Brad, because he's
Yes.
been, giving us a lot of choices, and we've been trying to go for something simple, and he was a driving force of all that.
Yeah, I can't understand that enough. Brad has been amazing to help us with this process. That's come up a lot from a lot of the committee members, and make sure that this was accessible to members of our community. And Brad has delivered that in spades, as you've seen, and Meet Me in other areas. So again, just great kudos to Brad on this.
Yeah.
So.
Lee.
I just have one question, because as you said, Brian and I are on the committee, but I've had to miss a couple of meetings because of work commitments. And so I would love to know what happened regarding discussion of neighborhood assemblies. Did that get set aside as something that was a little more complex and like?
Want to answer that?
Yeah, I can answer. So we did talk about that, and so that was just like you said. There's a lot of complexity to that there.
Yeah.
I think that this was, when our final recommendation comes out, we still haven't fleshed it out there. I think that more likely we're going to say that should be something that should be addressed later by a different committee, because there's a lot of complexity to it. I think that we talked about using the example of Burlington. They had a lot of pros and a lot of cons, but there's a lot of work that would need to be done to even begin to look into setting something like that up. And that would, I think, require probably a full committee to do that work, as opposed to the governance committee trying to do that along with trying to maybe make a recommendation to assemblies. I think there's a lot there still to be explored.
Okay.
I think that even our small community, we do have a lot of diversity across the community. Kind of similar how St. Albans is, smaller area, but definitely very unique pockets there.
Yep.
So I think that there's a lot of good ideas to push for with neighborhood assemblies, but I think right now with the complexity along with the rest of what we're doing, we felt like we wouldn't do justice to it, to have that added into here with the rest of the things that we're talking about. So,
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
yeah.
Any other questions in the room?
I don't have anything. I'm just going to let the committee work.
Well, thank you, Tim. So.
You guys go right ahead.
Nothing else from the room, it appears.
Okay, Marlon, you mentioned the accessibility piece. I just had a quick question about that November. I think we landed on November 5th, which is in the packet. I don't see an online option. Is that an option?
So in our conversation that we had on Monday, I think it was, there's so many meetings this week, we had talked about that. I don't know if we come to a hard agreement. We're going to talk about two on Thursday. We have our next governance meeting, which is tomorrow. So tomorrow we're going to talk about that, about seeing if we can do that. There was some back and forth about how would the information play out as well in a hybrid option, because the way that we have it set up tentatively right now is kind of a gallery style, where we're going to have things set up across AGRP. So that's the one hard thing, is how do we capture that from an online experience for folks there. We do have some other options. We talked about doing some focus groups, some of those in person, some of them hybrid, and some of them just straight virtual. So we may think that if we can't do justice with this forum here, that we may look at other options, to use some online options to capture those folks that are unable to, for whatever reason, to be able to come in person to experience that. So that conversation will continue tomorrow night. to continue to make sure that we are trying to reach as many people as possible across the community.
Yep. I totally feel that. We've had that issue with several of the ways we've tried to do things as well. So I get it. Appreciate you guys thinking of it. I don't have any other questions. If there's no other questions in the room,
Done.
I'll let you guys go enjoy the rest of your evening as well.
Thank you so much,
so much.
everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Guys.
Appreciate the update. and all the work.
All right, now we're moving on to 6D, which is rebranding project brief. And I see Ashley has joined us. Take it away.
All right. Thanks for letting me go over the rebranding process up to date and give you guys a little overview of what we've done so far. And then also I need some feedback from you guys on our project brief, which is in the packet tonight. So start off, you guys know we hired Place Creative Company to help us with this brand identity process. In July, the rebranding committee first met with Place, and we went through what's called a discovery session. So it was a 2-hour session where we sat down and started looking at what were some of our shared visions and goals of this project. And then we started looking at what that brand would look like. So we talked about brands that inspired us. We looked at different types of logos that we liked, or think pieces from logos that we liked. We wrote some Google reviews about the community. And then we discussed, if the city was a person, what would that person's characteristics be like? So all of that is in the project brief. So you can see some of that conversations that we had and we discussed during that meeting. From that meeting, then we built a survey that we launched at the same day as one of the Meet Me on Main events, which was the second one. We also participated in the Meet Me on Main events, which was a great opportunity to get some really good feedback from people that we usually don't hear from, I feel like. And so it was a great opportunity to get some extra feedback. But we did 2 Meet Me on Main events and then the online survey, and had about 272 responses between the two different opportunities for people to participate. In the packet as well is a summary of those survey results, so you guys have that as well to look at. From that, Place added in that survey information into what they consider a project brief. And this project brief is basically what's going to guide their creative team to develop our brand identity options. So when we think about logo, when we think about tagline and that kind of stuff, they're going to use that document to build those options off for us. So in the project or brief, you guys will see, like I said, some insights from the survey, some information from the discovery session, and some like key insights that they pulled out from that. What I need from you guys tonight is to tell me if there's anything that's missing on your end. It's not something that we're changing. This is stuff that we got from those 2 sessions from the session and the survey. This is just, is there anything that needs to be added to this document? So once you guys have that discussion tonight, then Place will begin developing those identity options. They will create multiple options for us. They will first present those to the rebranding committee. The rebranding committee will discuss that. We'll bring a recommendation to you along with presenting those options to you. We are going to record that presentation so that you guys can view that presentation as well to see that presentation from Place. Once we bring that to you guys, those options, you guys need to pick one concept for us to move forward on. Then we will have up to 5 rounds of revisions of that one concept. So I've basically put in a little timeline in my memo to you so you guys can see kind of what that is gonna look like. There will be another option for you guys to give some feedback. So we'll come back around round 3 to show you like where we are at in revisions and see if there's any other big changes that you guys have. We'll do a couple other revisions. And then hopefully by February, we will be bringing a final identity to you guys to approve. I will say that this timeline is subject to change just because it will be determined based off of how complex our changes are in these rounds or not complex. So if it's something that we can get done quicker and Place can get the revisions done quicker,
it'll move a little faster. If it's something that we're going to have to do a lot of changes, it might be a 2-week turnaround time instead of 1-week turnaround time. And that's kind of what they've given us is 5 days to review those changes and then get them back to them, except for times when we bring things to the council. So that's kind of where we're at in the process and the next steps in the process. So if you guys have any comments from the project brief, I'd love to hear them.
Opening it to the room, guys. Any questions, comments?
I'll just make a quick
Go ahead.
comment.
Yeah.
Ashley, well done. I really was impressed with the extent of the community feedback that we received. It was the things we did at Meet Me on Main, and I think you've done an excellent job, and I'm looking forward to the next steps. And I just wanted to be sure that you knew we really appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Brian? I'll simply say, look, in looking through the brief, I did not see anything that seemed obvious to me that was missing. I really did appreciate all the community feedback. It was really interesting to see some of the things that kind of popped from the community. And maybe it's my perspective, but I found it kind of interesting how many people think of Essex Junction in a historical context. Because, I think over the years we've modernized and, we've kind of adjusted with the flow of things, and many of those historical aspects I think have been minimized from my perception. But I love the fact that people still feel connected to Essex Junction's history. So I think with the amount of feedback you've gotten and with the way places put this together, I think you are definitely heading in the right direction for what I think is going to end up being a positive outcome. I look forward to having this brand identity for the community. One, settling this, but the other is I think it's really going to help to make this place feel, we're going to feel it because you'll see it in the name. So thank you for the work. Appreciate it.
I'm happy to see that so few people refer to Essex Junction as the junk.
Yeah.
E-junk, yeah.
Or e-junk. The junk or e-junk.
I will say, as the designated member of this committee from the council, this has been very intensive and very well thought through, and the group of people that sit on this committee are exactly the group of people with the knowledge that you would want to do this type of thing. I came into this and I was originally, I said, well, whatever, I'll honor it because they put the money in the budget before I got there. It's something they wanted to do. The more I move through this, the more I'm enjoying the process. And it's nice to see the work come through. So I don't have anything to add. I'm perfectly happy to let you go because I've seen it all the way through to this point. I've been on the every other week meetings for the most part. So I'm perfectly happy with the way things sit at the moment. And I just wanted to put it out there publicly, Marcus, that I might not have been the biggest fan originally, but I have gotten there.
Well, I was curious at where oddly immature came from. Now I know.
I think you're technically right.
Brian, any comments, questions?
Sorry, Brian.
No.
We all jumped in on you.
That might actually have been mine. Because it is historic, as someone who appreciates the history of Essex Junction and I see it all the time.
Yeah.
And I still am fascinated by it. But here we are at 3 years old.
Yeah. Back to you, Amber.
There is a motion in the packet. Would anybody like to do that motion?
I'll move
Tim
that
seemed
this.
pretty excited, so I didn't know if he wanted to read it.
No, it's fine. You have it. Go right ahead.
I move that the city council approve the project brief as written.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, that motion carries. Thanks, Ashley.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
You,
Ashley.
you get the short end of getting to go home early, so congratulations. All right, item 6E, which is acting as the local cannabis control commission.
Complete, but I'm actually going to recommend that you table this. And it is because we did not notify Mr. Struthers that this is on the agenda. It's not a quasi-judicial process. There is probably no real technical reason why we have to notify him, but it feels inherently like the right thing to do. Most people that are on our agenda for some reason or another are typically notified on Friday when the agenda goes out. And we missed that step. I apologize. Didn't realize it till I woke up this morning. So there is technically no timing necessity associated with this agenda item because the Cannabis Control Board has adjusted their rules. We do not have a time frame associated with the decision that's connected to the state's decision. Essentially what that means is municipalities can make this decision at any point within 365 days of the year. So that is my recommendation right now. Also apologize for folks who waited this out, but I did want to see if Jason happened to show up in the room, then I would have been assured that he did know about it. But since he's not here, I can't confirm that he knows this is on the agenda. So I recommend that you postpone it to your next meeting.
He's online. He was online earlier.
I didn't see his name.
Yeah, I don't see him.
Unless he was on under a different name, I did not see him at any point.
I think my wife had texted me, but if he's not here, then I think you're right.
Yeah.
Unless there are comments from the council, I will make that motion to table this agenda item until the November 12th meeting. So it's a second, Elaine?
Oh, sure, I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Abstain.
You're just abstaining?
Yeah.
Ryan? Okay. All right. So the next item, 6F, is discussion and consideration of an executive session item. So I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. I need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays?
No.
Okay. Everyone is so in sync tonight, it's hard for me to hear, sorry. All right, council member comments and city manager report. Regina?
Just want to make sure folks are aware, Pumpkin Palooza, super fun event on Saturday. That's happening at Maple Street Park. Also tomorrow, maybe a little less fun, we are essentially assisting Champlain Water District with a project on West Street. So there will be some road disruptions on West Street and some water line interruptions for folks tomorrow on West Street. If you are impacted, you would have gotten a notice directly. So just a heads up, more for the traveling public, it will be a little bit limited. That's all I've got.
Thanks. Counselors?
I would simply like to say, in regard to the West Street project, I want to say thank you because I do live in a house that's being impacted, and I felt well notified by getting the flyer at my house, by the flyers that were put up on the barrels. So I really do appreciate the fact that it seems like that communication was broad in order to make sure that everybody was aware. So thank you for that effort. And I look forward to the improvement right there. It happens to be in my corner, so thank you.
Bet you're looking forward to
Yeah.
that.
I will be working from my other office.
Don't forget to fill your
tomorrow,
bathtub
but,
tomorrow morning.
Thank you. And that's all. Nobody else?
Thank you.
I just wanted to take a minute and say how much fun Meet Me on Main was. Like, we asked for community event and then just let the ball go, and what came out of it was absolutely amazing. So that's just my 2 cents. I really I enjoyed all of the conversations and chatting with all of the people. I was at all 4 events, hung out until the movie started. I'm really sad that I missed Ghostbusters, but I had a hoot, and everyone I talked to had a hoot too. And so that is the type of stuff that builds community. I look forward to seeing what it looks like in the future, but I had an absolute blast.
I'll just jump on that to say quickly, and Steve said it earlier, but I think one of the biggest things was having the city there, its committees there, asking questions, showing off the work, getting the feedback from the community. I saw so much participation from the community because of that presence. That in itself was worth
Great.
everything.
Those booths were mobbed.
Yeah, so that was probably one of the biggest things outside of just seeing all those kids with the chalk on the street. It was awesome. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I will echo the sentiment. I attended all 4 events as well. And I just was amazed walking down Main Street or up Main Street, however the heck you want to qualify it, with the amount of Essex Junction residents that I saw out with their families. And it just brings a smile to my face, honestly. And I look forward to doing it again. And I do want to put in echo Regina's sentiment about Pumpkin Palooza. We will be in attendance as well. We have a booth. So please stop by, say hi, grab some candy, and look forward to it, and cross your fingers there is no rain and it's not 32 degrees outside. So, with that being said, anybody have the motion for the executive session that they would die to read?
I'd like to avoid dying while reading,
Well, you
but
know,
I
I
can
mean,
happily read it.
I would appreciate that.
You're
Marcus.
welcome. I move that the city council make the specific finding that premature disclosure of the confidential attorney-client communications regarding a probable litigation would place the city at a substantial disadvantage. I move that the city council enter into executive session to discuss confidential attorney-client communications regarding probable litigation pursuant to 1 VSA 313A1F and 1 VSA 313A1E to include the city council and city manager.
Second.
The other motion's on page 3
I
of the
have
packet.
the second one. I move that the city council enter into executive session to discuss the appointment of public officials pursuant to 1 VSA 313A3 to include the city manager.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We are good to go, I think, as I'm still trying to scroll to see if there's anything else. We may or may not be back. I think we may be back.
Might be back.
Definitely.
We might be. We'll leave it as May. Motion on the table? Anybody? Let me do it.
I have it. I'll make a motion to appoint Nancy Bean to the Police Community Advisory Board with the term ending June 30th, 2027.
You get a second?
Second.
All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays?
No.
No.
Any abstentions?
No.
Okay. All right, unanimous. Okay, motion carries. Congratulations, Nancy. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. All right, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good night, Amber.
Bye.